But jumping right in, I want to start large scale and then we'll get a little bit smaller, closer in as we go along. The first thing I want to talk about in regard to the location of a college is the region in which it's located. And so just to broadly break that down, there are going to be a couple of things that accompany a school's regional location. If it's a school in the Northeast, it comes with the climate of the Northeast, it comes with the culture of the Northeast, and it comes with the different modes of accessibility for you. And so, for example, in the Northeast, there's a train line that runs from Boston to Washington, D.C. and makes stops in all the major cities and some not major cities all along the way, which makes it really accessible if you are already from the area or if you're flying into a major airport in New York or Boston, for example, and you want to try to get somewhere in the middle. In addition to that, we want to be thinking about what you want out of that region. Are you really interested in being somewhere that's warm and sunny all the time? Or are you more interested in having 4 seasons? Do you love the snow? These are all things that are actually going to be part of your day-to-day life once you're at college, once you're on campus. So you have to be prepared for the weather, for the types of climate that you're going to be facing. And that's not to say that this should be the make or break, all-encompassing part of your decision, but it has to be something that you're prepared for. And on the flip side of that, you have to balance that with the culture of a place. If you are somebody who's from the South, coming to the Northeast might be a bit of a culture shock. If you're from the Midwest, going to the West Coast could be very different for you, and vice versa. No matter where you're traveling, you have to be ready to deal with the changes that are going to come with that. That being said, you might be really excited to go out somewhere new, to go coast and find a different culture because you want to explore what there is to have as your day-to-day life. And that, of course, is a totally valid way to do it. It's just you have to know what you're looking for. If you really want to be exploring all of these new environments and atmospheres, then going to your state school, your state university might not satisfy that sense of curiosity for you. On the flip side, if you're somebody who has grown up somewhere, who really loves it and wants to stay within that culture, you can pretty much eliminate schools that are going to take you all the way across the country. No matter where you end up, you'll always be able to find your people who have shared experiences and shared perspectives and shared outlooks, but the size of that community is definitely going to vary depending on where you end up in terms of your region. And then one last note on accessibility is that some places have more systems to get around. As I mentioned, the Northeast has a pretty comprehensive rail system. But on the other hand, you have to consider where you're coming from. Is a school going to be really difficult for you to get to every time you want to go to home for a break and then come back? Are you going to be traveling for hours to get to an airport only to fly across the country? And if you have a 5-day break, is that going to be worth it for you? Again, none of these should be your make or break decision point, but they are all things that you should be considering. If you want to drive to a school, if you want to fly there, these are things that you should be weighing in your mind. Of course, many people will also choose to attend an international school. They'll fly across the ocean or across a border in order to attend school. And that's also a really exciting way to achieve your educational goals, but it's always part of the calculation that you're doing. Do you know how to apply for a visa? If not, you need to start figuring that out so that you can get there. And the schools are going to really want you to succeed in these things. So if you're accepted to a school that's an international university, you're going to have a lot of support from those schools to figure out that whole process. But you have to keep those things in mind as you're putting together the vision of the school that you want to attend, the place where you want to grow for the next 4 or more years. And bundled up into that is proximity to home. It's slightly different from culture, slightly different from climate and accessibility, but Do you want to be near your family? Do you want to be somewhere where your family can't come find you? For me, I grew up in New Jersey, but now attend Yale University. I've been here for now 5 years, and it's about 2.5 or 3 hours from home, which is for me a really perfect distance because it means that I have some level of independence. My parents aren't just swinging by. They always have to warn me if they want to see me on campus because they're not going to drive 3 hours out of their way only for me to be busy in class. But it also means I can go home if we have a 3-day break. It means I can go home for a holiday or go home in case of an emergency. Or as my mother put it when I moved to college, if I get sick, she can come up and help me get better. So all of these things factored into my decision where to end up. And it wasn't the only factor. I applied to schools all over the country and in all types of environments. But when I was making my final decision, this was a really important factor in deciding where I wanted to be.